Okay, Wednesday, August 23rd, 2023, 7:07 PM. Call the planning board meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Make sure you speak into your mics. So we've been having a hard time with the transcription hearing everybody.
That would be me, probably.
Well, you're one of them.
Everybody.
It's hard when you lean back and talk, you lose the volume of it, so.
This from the microphone is adequate, give or take. Depending on how loud the building your voice is, but on average, that'll work.
Okay,
Usually me then.
so our agenda tonight. First thing is the Evergreen Estates subdivision continued review on Call Street, completion of the seeker parts 2 and 3.
Okay, you can do that one first.
First, we have to read the review letter from New York State DEC, what you have here.
Everyone has it in their packet as well, but I will read it. Let me just pull it out.
Just for the record, no one is present here for Evergreen, but we knew that coming into the
We've
meeting.
spoken to them too.
Right.
This letter was addressed to me as zoning enforcement officer regarding the seeker lead agency coordination response. Notice of intent to declare lead agency town of Luzerne, Evergreen Estates subdivision, Luzerne Town, County of Warren. Dear Karen, thank you for your June 29th, 23 lead agency communication for the above project pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act. DEC position. Based on the information provided, DEC agrees with the Town of Lake Luzerne Planning Board serving as seeker lead agency for this project. Freshwater wetlands. Portions of New York State regulated freshwater wetlands and their adjacent areas are in the project area. Any disturbance within the wetland and the 100-foot adjacent area will require an Article 24 freshwater wetlands permit from DEC. In accordance with the DEC freshwater wetlands permit requirements regulations, all efforts must be made to first avoid disturbing the wetland and adjacent area. The regulated area should remain undisturbed unless there are no feasible alternatives. If the wetland and adjacent areas cannot be avoided, the project sponsor will need to justify the disturbance, discuss alternatives, and minimize impacts as part of the freshwater wetlands permit application. To protect the wetlands resource, all limits of disturbance should be more than 100 feet from the wetland. Sediment barriers are to be installed before construction begins and to be maintained until work is complete and disturbed areas are vegetated. Construction stormwater management. Disturbance of more than 1 acre of total land will require a speedies general permit for stormwater discharges from construction activities. This general permit requires development of a stormwater pollution prevention plan and submission of a notice of intent to DEC. The general permit and related information are available on DEC website, and they give the website. Please contact Chris LePan with our Division of Water at Christopher LePan at dec.ny.gov or 518-623-1232 if you have questions regarding the stormwater requirements. Sincerely, Joshua Campbell, environmental analyst trainee, copied electronic copy to Chris LePan, DEC, Melissa Neely, DEC, and Jed Hayden of DEC. And they included a map with that. I can tell you that they have, in speaking with Eric Sandblum and with Paul Kiersgaard, they have Department of Health, DOH, came in yesterday and redid the test pits. They required them to redo the test pits for the septic. And the results were pretty consistent with the previous ones that they had done. And they have brought in a wetland specialist, DEC. Then the delineation is a little different than what they showed, so they're going to have to redo that on the plan a little bit. There's some minor differences there. So they aren't ready to come back yet with that. And so that's why neither party are here tonight for that, because all we're doing is a continuation of that following through with the seeker review. We had to wait 30 days to get any responses from the people that I submitted it to, and we got the one back from DEC. So now we can move on, do part 2, part 3, and be done with hopefully be done with the seeker, depending upon what your outcome is of that review.
Okay, so I know we went through this back in June. I believe Mary Ellen, the lawyer, read through this, but we have to do this again to approve it.
Well, this is part 2. We're not redoing part 1. This is
Oh, right.
part 2 that we're doing, part 2 and part 3, if we agree with part 2.
So,
The engineering company actually looked this over and did a draft for us of it based on what they had reviewed under the whole plan that they had done the review on. Sorry, John, to keep interrupting.
that's all right. So I'm going to read through the full environmental assessment form, part 2, the identification of potential project impacts. So we'll start on page 1 of 10. If anybody disagrees or has any questions as we're going through. I know, well, the way Mary Ellen did it, each question, I think she asked for a vote, but I think that,
No, we didn't do a vote on everyone. It was just if
if they had any
you
questions.
agreed, just state that you agree, and then we'll move on to the next.
Okay,
Agree or disagree. And the other, again, here I go again, John, but if we just say no, if John just says no, no means no or a very small impact. As you get going through these, you kind of hurry and don't say it all, and it's very repetitive. So
yeah, because
Okay.
when I was reading through it, there was a little impact, but that's what the answer is, no or small impact. Because I
Correct.
know when we were reading the part 1, there was impact, but it was a small impact. Okay, impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site. We answered yes. Or the answer was yes. And in this case, as I go through each one, when I read it through with Karen, we decided, well, we figured out it was a small impact, but it was still no answer. Number A, the proposed action may involve construction on land where depth to water table is less than 3 feet. We answered no. They answered no. B, the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. The answer is no. C, the proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. The answer is no. D, the proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. The answer is no. E, the proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or in multiple phases. The answer was no. F, the proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal, including from treatment by herbicides. The answer was no. G, the proposed action is or may be located within a coastal erosion hazard area. The answer is no, and other impacts was also no.
everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Any questions or disagreements? Okay. Next, page 2 of 10. Part 2. Impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, and caves. This answer was no. So because of that, I believe we don't have to go through part A, B, and C since there was no impact at all. Number 3, impacts on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies, such as streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes. The answer was yes. So we'll go through each answer, and if anybody disagrees or whatever has any comments, bring it up. Number A is proposed action may create a new water body. The answer was no. B, the proposed action may result in an increase or decrease of over 10% or more than a 10-acre increase or decrease in the surface area of any body of water. The answer is no. C, the proposed action may involve dredging more than 100 cubic yards of material from a wetland or water body. The answer is no. D, the proposed action may involve construction within or adjoining a freshwater or tidal wetland or in the bed or banks of any other water body. The answer was no. E, the proposed action may create turbidity in a water body, either from upland erosion, runoff, or by disturbing bottom sediments. The answer is no. F, the proposed action may include construction of one or more intakes for withdrawal of water from surface water. The answer is no. G, the proposed action may include construction of one or more outfall for discharge of wastewater to surface water. The answer is no. H, the proposed action may cause soil erosion or otherwise create a source of stormwater discharge that may lead to siltation or other degradation of receiving water bodies. The answer is no. I, the proposed action may affect the water quality of any water bodies within or downstream of the site of the proposed action. The answer is no. J, the proposed action may involve the application of pesticides or herbicides in and around any water body. The answer is no. And K, the proposed action may require the construction of new or expansion of existing wastewater treatment facilities. And the answer was no. And other impacts, I, the answer was no. Number 4 was the impact on ground. Sure.
So it says that the impact is on streams, rivers, ponds, and lakes. Is there an actual stream that runs through that property, or is it just runoff water?
I know when I went to the property, there was like maybe a pond, I guess.
Okay,
It was at well, on the map. Somewhere down here where there's no houses. I know there's a house here. There was like, it goes down,
okay.
and that's where there was a little pond.
I've only been in the top of the property. That's why I was asking. if
Yeah,
there was
I
an
walked the
actual
whole
stream while
thing.
we were answering yes to that. So there is a pond.
Well, if there's a small impact, which there is, that's why you could answer no.
In that area,
Okay,
I'm looking at,
Is it on the property? then?
Yeah. but I don't believe,
It's on the property.
that Beaver Creek runs down close to there, but it's over this way. I don't think there's one,
because of what the question is asking.
yeah.
It's not asking for like runoff. It's asking for a stream, a river, ponds, and lakes.
And that was, what letter was that?
It's the question itself.
Oh, okay.
In the question itself that we answered yes to, it says streams, rivers, ponds, or lakes.
I think it was because of the pond. I know this, I don't believe it was. a
Well, there
stream.
are wetlands there.
Right.
It's wetlands
Yeah.
is included. That's
Okay,
why. Because that's what they're working with DEC on now, delineating where exactly they are.
And where that pond was, there's no way a house could go there. Because
Okay.
it's,
I haven't been down to the lower portion. That's why I was asking.
well, if you go down there, I would call them first, but where the house is, where the property is. I think their mother lives there. The next property over is where it goes down.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, number 4, the impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. The answer was yes. So for letter A, the proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells, which is obviously they're going to put wells in there, but it's going to have a small impact. So the answer was no. B, the water supply demand from the proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable withdrawal capacity rate of the local supply or aquifer. The answer was no. C, the proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services. The answer was no. D, the proposed action may include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater. The answer was no. E, the proposed action may result in the construction of water supply wells in locations where groundwater is or is suspected to be contaminated. The answer was no. F, the proposed action may require the bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or an aquifer. The answer was no. G, the proposed action may involve the commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking water or irrigation sources. The answer was no. And under impacts, the answer was no. So any questions about the impact on groundwater? I think part of the reason was they're building wells. That's why we had to include it as yes, it does have a small impact, but it's not like you're putting a water system in there. Okay, moving on. Number 5, impact on flooding. The proposed action may result in development on land subject to flooding. The answer was no, so we can skip over those questions. Unless anybody have any comments about that, I don't. We answered no, or the answer no on the flooding. Just asking to make sure we cover. Number 6, impacts on air. The proposed action may include a state regulated air emission source. The answer was yes. So we'll go through the answers. A, if the proposed action requires federal or state air emission permits, the action may also emit one or more greenhouse gases at or above the following levels. More than 1,000 tons of carbon dioxide a year, more than 3.5 tons of nitrous oxide a year, more than 1,000 tons a year of carbon equivalent of perfluorocarbons, more than 0.05 tons a year of sulfur hexafluoride, more than 1,000 tons a year of carbon dioxide equivalent of hydrochlorofluorocarbons emissions, and lastly, 43 tons a year or more of methane. The answer no to all those questions. B, the proposed action may generate 10 tons or more a year of any one designated hazardous air pollutant, or 25 tons a year or more of any combination of such hazardous air pollutants. The answer was no. C, the proposed action may require a state air registration or may produce an emissions rate of total contaminants that may exceed 5 pounds per hour, or may include a heat source capable of producing more than 10 million BTUs per hour. The answer was no. D, the proposed action may reach 50% of any of the thresholds in A through C. The answer was no. E, the proposed action may result in the combustion or thermal treatment of more than 1 ton of refuse per year. The answer was no. And other impacts, the answer is no. So are there any questions about this? I think the reason we answered yes was because they're going to be constructing and they may be using loaders or whatever.
Right, we brought up, you brought up as a board, the diesel fuel emissions and stuff during construction, so.
So because of that, it had to be included, just so we went over it. Impact on plant, number 7, impact on plants and animals. The proposed action may result in a loss of flora or fauna. Yes. So we'll go through each of these answers. A, the proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any threatened or endangered species as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or are found on, over, or near the site. The answer is no. B, the proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any rare, threatened, or endangered species as listed by the New York State or the federal government. The answer was no. C, the proposed action may cause reduction in population or loss of individuals of any species of special concern or conservation need, as listed by New York State or the federal government that use the site or found on, over, or near the site. The answer was no. D, the proposed action may result in a reduction or degradation of any habitat used by any species of special concern and conservation need, as listed by New York State or the federal government. The answer was no. E, the proposed action may diminish the capacity of a registered national natural landmark to support the biological community it was established to protect. The answer is no. F, the proposed action may result in the removal of or ground disturbance in any portion of a designated significant natural community. The answer is no. G, the proposed action may substantially interfere with nesting, breeding, foraging, or overwintering habitat for the predominant species that occupy or use the project site. The answer is no. H, the proposed action requires the conversion of more than 10 acres of forest, grassland, or any other regionally or locally important habitat. The answer is no. I, proposed action, commercial, industrial, recreational projects only, involves use of herbicides or pesticides. The answer was no. And other impacts, the answer was no. Any discussion or questions, or I think that was let's see. Because of the roads they were putting in, I think they're just wondering in the trees that there was going to be some impact. So we had to put yes to that question, even though it's a small impact.
And clearing for houses.
Right. Howard, any question?
No.
Number 8, impact on agricultural resources. The answer was, or the proposed action may impact agricultural resources. The answer they gave was no, so we do not have to go through the other answers. Number 9, impact on aesthetic resources. The land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. The answer to the number 9 was no, so we will not go through the other answers for that. Impact. Number 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. The proposed action may occur in or adjacent to a historic or archaeological resource. The answer was no, so we don't have to cover the impacts of that. Number 11, impact on open space and recreation. The proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of an open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. The answer was no to that impact, so we won't be going through those. Number 12, the impact on critical environmental areas. The proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area. The answer was no, so we won't be going through those questions. Number 13, impact on transportation. The proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems. The answer was yes. Letter A, the proposed projected traffic increase may exceed capacity of existing road network. The answer was no. Letter B, the proposed action may result in the construction of paved parking area for 500 or more vehicles. The answer was no. Letter C, the proposed action will degrade existing transit access. The answer is no. Letter D, the proposed action will degrade existing pedestrian or bicycle accommodations. The answer was no. Letter E, the proposed action may alter the present pattern of movement of people or goods. The answer was no. And other impacts, the answer was no. I think we said yes to a small impact for the first one, letter A. That's why we had to
Right.
go through that, where there may be an increase, which there is. There's going to be a road and people are going to live there, but it would be a small impact. Any questions on that one? Okay. Number 14, impact on energy. The proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. The answer was yes. Letter A, the proposed action will require a new or an upgrade to an existing substation. The answer was no. Letter B, the proposed action will require the creation or extension of an energy transmission or supply system to serve more than 50 single or two-family residences or to serve a commercial or industrial use. The answer was no. Letter C, the proposed action may utilize more than 2,500 MW hours per year of electricity. The answer was no. Letter D, the proposed action may involve heating and or cooling of more than 100,000 square feet of building area when completed. The answer was no. And other impacts, the answer was no. I believe we thought this would be a small impact because there's going to be houses in there with electricity, which there's none there now. So anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Number 15, impact on noise, odor, and lights. The proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. The answer was yes. So letter A, the proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. The answer was no. Letter B, the proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence, hospital, school, licensed daycare center, or nursing home. The answer was no. Letter C, the proposed action may result in routine odors for more than 1 hour per day. The answer was no. Letter D, the proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties. The answer was no. Letter E, the proposed action may result in lighting, creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. The answer was no. And other impacts, the answer was no. Any questions on that? I think the reason we said small impact was because of the construction and
Outdoor lighting on the
outdoor light,
houses.
right? Because there's nothing there now. So. Number 16, impact on human health. The proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. The answer was no. So we don't have to read through those parts either. Number 17, consistency with community plans. The proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. The answer was no. So we don't have to read through that. Number 18, consistency with community character. The proposed project is inconsistent with the existing community character. The answer was no. So we don't have to read through that. I believe that was it for part 2. So I have to read through the part 3. Karen, is it, we never did this particular form, read through the whole page?
Do we need to approve?
Or this, I
part
think
2
this is
first?
just,
Hold on.
okay.
Part 3. Yeah, you need to read that whole thing.
Okay. Full environmental assessment form part 3, evaluation of the magnitude and importance of project impacts and determination of significance. Part 3 provides the reasons in support of the determination of significance. The lead agency must complete part 3 for every question in part 2 where the impact has been identified as potentially moderate to large, or where there is a need to explain why a particular element of the proposed action will not or may result in a significant adverse environmental impact. Based on the analysis in part 3, the lead agency must decide whether to require an environmental impact statement to further assess the proposed action, or whether available information is sufficient for the lead agency to conclude the proposed action will not have a significant adverse environmental impact. By completing the certification of the next page, the lead agency can complete its determination of significance. Reasons supporting this determination: to complete this section, identify the impact based on the part 2 responses and describe its magnitude. Magnitude considers factors such as severity, size, or extent of an impact. Assess the importance of the impact. Importance relates to the geographic scope, duration, probability of the impact occurring, number of people affected by the impact, and any additional environmental consequences if the impact were to occur. The assessment should take into consideration any design element or project changes. Repeat this process for each part 2 question where the impact has been identified as potentially moderate to large, or where there is a need to explain why a particular element of the proposed action will not or may result in a significant adverse environmental impact. Provide the reason or reasons why the impact may or will not result in a significant adverse environmental impact. For conditional negative declarations, identify the specific conditions imposed that will modify the proposed action so that no significant adverse environmental impacts will result. Attach additional sheets as needed. Number 1, proposed action involves the construction of 11 residential lots, 9 developable lots, thus altering the existing land surface. Although this will be completed in accordance with regulatory requirements, including a New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan to handle any erosion and sediment control and post-construction controls. Project will also comply with the New York State Department of Health Realty Subdivision Law. 1A, the depth to water table is approximately 1.88 feet on the project site, which is less than the 5-foot mark, and design and construction will be completed in accordance with regulatory standards, including proper separation and setbacks to protect water quality. Number 3, the project is adjacent to a stream and wetland, but will not be impacted due to meeting regulatory permitting and construction requirements. 3D and 3K. Residential sanitary waste from 9 septic systems will be generated and septic systems will be constructed and will be compliant with the New York State Department of Health regulatory requirements. 4 and 4A. Individual wells for residential home resulting in a higher water demand than currently exists, although impacts will be minor in nature. Number 6, there would temporarily be CO2 emissions resulting from machinery and equipment during construction, although this will be temporary and is typical for construction projects of this nature. Number 7, proposed action will result in 3.17 acres of physical disturbance out of 15.66 acres, around 0.25 acres out of 5,253 acres of hemlock northern hardwood forest would be impacted in compliance with regulations from applicable jurisdictional agencies. Number 13, the proposed action would result in a minor traffic increase that does not necessitate the need for any traffic studies due to the development of 11 residential lots, 9 developable lots. 14, the additional residential homes would cause a minor increase in energy demand from the local utility. And 15, there would be a temporary increase in noise levels during the construction period, although is expected to be a minor impact. I think as we went through part 2, these were the answers to why there would be a small impact. Continuing, determination of significance, type 1 and unlisted actions. The seeker status is type 1. Identify portions of EAF completed for this project, part 1, part 2, and part 3. Upon review of the information recorded in the EAF as noted, plus this additional support information, coordinated review letter, including map from New York State DEC dated July 3rd, 2023. And considering both the magnitude and importance of each identified potential impact, it is the conclusion of the Town of Lake Luzerne Planning Board as lead agency that Dave's already checked this off, but this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, negative declaration is issued. Letter B, there is,
Does everyone agree with that?
after reading through part 2 and part 3, where they actually described each reason for the yes answer. Or asking the board members if this, that's why we checked it off, but I don't sign and agree with anything until we have a vote. But this project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Accordingly, this negative declaration is issued. Does anyone see any problems with what we read through or feel that that is not a true case? Because I believe that is the last part of it, other than,
Just need to read that resolution. You'll just need to read the
oh, okay.
resolution and vote on that.
Any questions on that part? Before I read the resolution.
I think A is the best answer.
Howard,
I'm fine with that.
Josh. Okay, so I'm going to read the resolution. It's drawn up. Resolution adopting a negative declaration for the Evergreen Estates subdivision. Whereas the Evergreen Estates subdivision located along Call Street in the town of Lake Luzerne has been classified as a type 1 action due to the project scope. Whereas the Lake Luzerne Planning Board lead agency status from involved agencies for the above referenced project. Whereas the seeker process requires a lead agency to be designated to facilitate the seeker review process and to make a determination of significance when provided with sufficient information. Whereas the lead agency is reviewed part 1 of the FEAF and must complete part 2 and part 3 of the FEAF. The lead agency is required to make a determination of significance for the above referenced project consistent with seeker guidance. Does everybody understand that so far? Okay. Now and therefore would it be resolved that based on agreement from all involved agencies without objection, the Lake Luzerne Planning Board declares itself lead agency. Resolved, having completed part 2 and part 3 of the FEAF, Lake Luzerne Planning Board as lead agency hereby determines that the proposed project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment for reasons set forth in part 3 of the FEAF. Resolves that the Lake Luzerne Planning Board is authorized to take all actions reasonable and necessary to file the negative declaration and discharge the Lake Luzerne Planning Board responsibility as lead agency for this action. Whereupon the resolution is put to a vote, recorded as follows. So I make that resolution.
We need a second.
Just need a
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, roll call vote on that.
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes, and I just wanted to say that having studied this for a while, it appears as if this project is appropriate for the town for new home ownership, and the builder appears to be in compliance with what they need to be in compliance with.
and John.
Yes.
Hearing none, motion's carried.
Okay.
Yeah, that completes that. Then I'll have to get, if you would, after the meeting, I'll get you to sign this one copy.
Okay.
So.
So that's just the first process. It's still not. Okay. Before we move on to the next item, we still have an open public hearing for the Evergreen Estates. If anyone wishes to comment in the audience or on Zoom on the Evergreen Estates public hearing, please come up to the podium. Yes, yeah, I mean, the actual Evergreen was actually approved. They had this, but
They made revisions.
right,
to
they
it.
made revisions to it, to the road and everything. So hearing none, we're still going to keep the public hearing open. So there could still be comments next month. Next on our agenda is major subdivision application, owner Thomas Reed, Hidden Valley Road, continuation of public hearing. Anything new submitted on that yet?
I spoke with Matt Huntington and he indicated they were not ready yet to bring it back to the board. Apparently, they're going to go over a review with the Adirondack Park Agency first and make sure that what the changes that they are proposing to make, they're going to make changes to the road. They're going to shorten the road. They're going to take out the cul-de-sac and make a turning area there at the end. And because of that, some of the lot sizes are going to be changing. So they're going through all of the process of redoing the plans for that. They're going to submit them to the Adirondack Park Agency and then come back to the board with that. So basically you need to leave the public hearing open on this one because we haven't done any stormwater.
Right, and they
And
kind
we
of
have,
changed
and
everything.
the board has not done, even though we've declared ourselves lead agency, we have not done any of the seeker review yet because we're waiting. I was informed that it may make some minor changes to the seeker form with these changes that are being done.
Okay. But since we do have a public hearing still open, if anybody wishes to make any comments, please come up to the table and I
I
don't-
did get, I will read into the record. I think this gets read when we do the seeker review, but I did get a response because we declared ourselves lead agency. I had to send out all of the paperwork to the required agencies that get the forms on it, even though we haven't reviewed them. And I did get a response from DEC on it, but that will be read into the record when we actually do the part 1, part 2, and part 3. But it is in my file for the record.
So if no one has any response, it will still remain open, public hearing, which means going forward, they'll still be open for every meeting until we close it, which at this point, I believe it's going to be a while, but do we have minutes? No minutes. Okay. Any old or new business?
You're
Sure.
going to talk about Zoom.
Yes, one of the boards, zoning board, and I don't know if the town board did it or not, but made a resolution, which is according to our lawyer, was perfectly legal, that anybody that wants to present their anything in front of the planning board actually has to physically be here since the pandemic's over. And I believe, except for the public hearings that are open, no. I was going to make a comment about any comments.
The zoning board, when they did their resolution, they're going to continue Zoom. It will still continue to be live streamed on YouTube, but they are not going to allow any comments by Zoom any longer. Anyone that wants to make comments needs to be present at the meeting. it was, I'm not going to say any more than that, but they voted on that. It was passed, and Mary said that the state's no longer requiring that you have it, even have the Zoom anyway. It's more of convenience to people so that they can watch the meetings, but the zoning board voted to not allow comments by Zoom anymore, that everybody has to be present for the meetings if you want to participate. So I
Okay.
don't know if that's what the planning board wants to do or not, but that's what the zoning board did.
So anybody has any comments or feelings about that? Or we do any, or we don't have to do anything? I mean, that was just something that the zoning board did.
What's your opinion, John?
Well, one of their things was somebody presented on the Zoom, which I don't think they should do. They should be here in person. I mean, during the pandemic, you kind of had to do it that way.
Yeah,
So that part I agree with.
Yeah.
It's very hard to control with Zoom when people are speaking and when the board is trying to speak, everyone was speaking over each other. And we actually had to mute portions of the meetings that were not part of the public hearing because of the comments going on. So that's why they did it for the variance hearings. And it's up to you as a board if you want to do the same or if you want to leave it as it is.
you know, I would just say that it would seem to make sense that when someone who wants to propose something, they have enough concern, no reason why they can't or shouldn't appear in person. If they can't do it this month, they could come next month, or they could come next month. I think it's a good idea.
Could we do it and have like a special circumstance that if somebody was maybe out of state or not in the area and could not be present, not for a presentation, but if they needed to be present on Zoom for a certain circumstance that was a special situation, that we could consider that ahead of time if we knew ahead of time?
You don't have to make a decision on it tonight,
Right.
just to begin
Just
with.
we
And
just
if
think about it.
something like
Yeah.
that might be something you might want to ask the lawyer if it makes a difference or not.
That and
And
hopefully
she
have more
wasn't able
members
to be
too.
here tonight, but
Yeah.
good thought.
Yeah. I just wouldn't want to say absolutely no, and then we would be in a situation where we couldn't meet our deadline, but we knew there was additional information out there that should be presented to us.
Is there, Karen, you talked to Mary Ellen, is there or Cassandra, I'm sorry, about do they have to be present? I mean, now that during pandemic, the state said they didn't have to be.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to
Not
that.
for comments, but to actually present their case, like.
I don't know if that has changed or not. I just know that she said there's no legal reason that we have to even continue Zoom at this point. So
Other than
why
it's a
don't you
courtesy to the
just-
community, you know.
I would suggest that you think about it and we'll bring it back at the next meeting
Okay.
when she's here. And she can better answer the legal things. I just don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have to decide it
Yeah.
tonight, but
We just have so many older people in the community that I want them to still be involved, even if they cannot make it to the meeting.
right.
They still want to be part of the town.
Oh, I
Keep in
agree.
mind, I still have the ability to mute or eject people from the meeting if someone becomes disruptive.
So we don't have the same circumstance from before too.
Well, that came up pretty quickly.
Oh, that was bad.
But if it's an applicant, that could certainly be somewhat difficult. What do you do if we had to mute and unmute and kind of open the gate, close the gate, if you will, during the session.
Right.
Yeah.
You have the capability to unmute or one at a time, and obviously.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Josh,
I mean, my only thought with the comments is, yeah, if you take it off of Zoom, you're you're hurting the community members that can't make it, disabled, elderly.
Right.
And the seasonal people, you know, in the town can't really.
Plus when the weather's bad.
Or the winter storm.
Well,
And we haven't had too many issues with it. I don't feel like it sounds like the zoning board may have had some.
anyone can, when we do the public notices, they can call, talk to me, they can send letters, they can email, they can come in ahead of time, go through it, provide comments. So it's not that people don't have the opportunity. And I'm not defending it one way or the other. I just want you to be aware that when the public hearing notices are posted, it allows, and we included Zoom in them before, and that's now for the zoning board public hearings, we won't be including Zoom as a means anymore, but you can have an agent speak on your behalf. You can do it by letter, by email, by phone, in person, however you want to do it. I mean, there are other ways to comment. But the Zoom also provides an avenue as well.
And I think the zoning board, they are more specific to a case, whereas planning board, we got this going on, you know, evergreen time. I mean, we got a lot of stuff where it involves the community more than just one single person. And that's kind of what I think the zoning board does. But we can table this till next month and have more discussion.
So are they still broadcasting the Zoom live? Just nobody can
Participate
from
from
Zoom.
Zoom.
They can just watch
watch it.
Right.
Yes.
So anybody else have any business? Anybody going to the October Lake Placid?
I want to.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I want to. Is anybody else going to go?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
And so it's,
Chris
right.
is going to go as well.
Okay.
And I'm going to see if the new person wants to do it, because he's going to have to get his 4 hours of training too before now and the end of the year.
yes.
And what about the second that's possible coming in
No.
December or January? Is it December or January?
Well, they'll be coming in after the first of the year.
After the first of the
Yeah.
year. Okay. Does that
I
make
sent out an email on it.
Yeah, I just.
Yeah, it's October 12th in Lake Placid
Right.
from like 10 to 3 or 10 to 3 or
So if they're
30,
appointed
something like
prior,
that.
can they go to that? What? Well, it won't be that. That'll
If
be too
you've
far in
gotten your 4
advance.
hours already, yes, you can take it and put it towards your next year's
Mhm.
4 hours worth of training if you want. They provide lunch.
Oh, this isn't it. This is.
Oh.
I'll try, I can resend it to you tomorrow if you want. I'll go back in my email and resend it. You want me to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, if
The,
you, do you think it's gonna be difficult to get the training otherwise? I mean, we should probably-
well, they always have that same training they always have online, but it's, a lot of people are repeating the courses that they've
It's
taken
the same exact thing.
in the past.
There's the Hyde Park program too on September 12th.
Right. Howard's going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
that
yeah.
one. There are more than one, but
Yeah.
the closest one to us was the Lake Placid one, which is in October.
Yeah.
I'll send it. I'll make a note, Joss. I'll send it back
Yeah,
out to you. The thing is at first I thought you had to register online, but then there became a problem with the town's credit card. And so I'm now I have all of your personal information. I can register you and put in the town's credit card without having to give that to everybody. And then, so I'm going to be doing the registering is the point, but I think, did you get a confirmation by email?
No, I haven't.
You haven't yet, huh?
Do we have to pick out classes before you register us or?
No, I
Just
don't
do
think so.
regular.
It's just
Okay.
regular.
Because in Saratoga, we had to.
Yeah, I
select
don't
the
think you're
classes.
giving a variety. I think it's a
Okay.
set course.
I think you have 3 options per time frame, if I recall, right? There were.
I don't have my folder with me. I didn't bring it in. I'll look at it again tomorrow, but anyway,
I think.
Howard, I did submit yours.
Okay.
But I don't
I'll check
know.
my spam filter. Could have gone there.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Okay.
And maybe they're waiting till closer to the time. I don't
Yeah.
know.
could be. We'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Okay.
And should we make a formal suggestion to the board for 2 alternates like you suggested? And comments at the last meeting, should we?
We could, yeah, we
present
could,
that to them
we could do
formally
that.
in writing, asking them for 2 alternates?
Sure, we can do that. I don't know if they'll approve
I
it,
mean,
but
Tonight we have 4, so
Karen, do you know? I kind of was at that meeting where they decided on who, and I sent that proposal out. Do you know, did they go to executive just session to
They went
decide
to
that? or-
executive session after the meeting. I was not asked to be part of the executive
okay.
session, so I don't know. And in executive session, you're not supposed to speak about what happens anyway, so,
Right.
but I was not part of it. But I do know that a lot of research was done to try to find a past resolution where they talked about appointing alternates because they were looking to see whether it was single alternate or plural alternates, and no resolution was found. So certainly, I would think if the board feels that they would like to recommend that they allow 2 alternates, then, I would do that. And I would we can either, John can put it together in writing if he wishes from the board, and we'll present it at the next town board meeting.
And what I could understand is it was only a few months, just until the end of the year, because there were 2 people that wanted to be on the board.
And we knew we were gonna have another opening.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Dane's leaving for the town board January
so just
1st.
appoint the 2 alternates right now. They can both be prepared for what we're going forward with the subdivisions. And then at the beginning of the year, we can find another one instead of
Right.
being short on meetings and not being able to vote.
Exactly. I agree. Okay, so I'll,
Do we have to make a motion on it?
I would make a motion just
Okay.
to,
go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we present the town board with a request for 2 alternates for the planning board.
I'll second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Tony,
Yes,
John,
Yes.
Josh,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes,
hearing none, motion's carried.
So by September, we'll find out.
so do you want to just put it in an email and,
Sure.
you can address it to the town board, send it to me, send it to Cindy, probably is the best, because everything's supposed to go through her.
Okay,
All right, and then I'll bring it up at the town board meeting.
okay. Because I think we got some really good people wanting to come on, which would be nice.
well, tonight, if we had one conflict, we wouldn't have been able to vote or pass
Right.
anything.
Any other new or old business? I know you guys hate for me to do this, but I make a motion we adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
that's good.
Okay.